What is going on, Movie Meals? I'm sorry for this review of Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny being a little bit late. We've just been really busy this past weekend, so I'm finally able to get around to be able to talk about this movie. But before I talk about that, I just want to give a quick shout out to our Patreon supporters. Thank you, Kimberly and Karen, as always. And if anyone else hasn't been a Patreon supporter yet, please sign up for our Patreon down below in the description below. As always, thank you guys very much. So for myself, I've really been looking forward to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny for a long while now. While I know that Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull certainly left a lot to be desired with that movie, I still really appreciate the franchise. It was a part of me growing up through my childhood years all the way to my adulthood, and I still even watch Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull when I do rewatches of the franchise. I just love it that much. So even though Spielberg isn't coming back to direct this one, it was James Mangold, who's the director that I really love. Plus, Harrison Ford is back in the role as Indiana Jones. And I just kept getting excited for this movie to be released simply because of the talent of James Mangold. While he's no Steven Spielberg, he still is a very talented director. And just for the excitement of maybe one last final hurrah for the Indiana Jones franchise, even though I think Last Crusade was still like a near perfect send off in and of itself, but still would be nice to see a new one of these anyway. So I'll start off with my positives by saying Harrison Ford obviously gets back into the role of Indiana Jones, and I think he does a really good job, even though it's been many years since the last movie. I didn't feel like he skipped a beat, and the story itself I thought was heading in the right direction in terms of having Indiana Jones come to terms with his age. I thought that was a really good idea to not ignore that fact when it comes to the character and to show him feeling like he's in a different time that he's not familiar with anymore, and he longs for trying to get back into the adventurous days of when he was younger. And on top of that, I also thought that it played well to a degree of him having regrets throughout his life and him kind of reminiscing about those said regrets, which I won't get into for spoiler reasons in case if people still want to see this movie. But I don't think it necessarily, or those elements don't necessarily go through all the way. But I think at least it had a good aspect within the story that I was really appreciative of. On top of that, I thought he and Phoebe Waller-Bridges, who comes in and plays the role of his goddaughter, I thought they have a really good chemistry between one another to where they were almost similar in some ways, but obviously not similar in others. And I thought that they had a really good job of butting heads, but still being appreciative of each other. It was a really good dynamic. And I thought for the character itself, I was really appreciative of her uh, having a charisma to the character, but at the same time also having enough flaws to where it's a protagonist that you don't necessarily love all the way through, but you still like her enough to where you're interested in how she plays off of Indiana Jones, where their adventure takes place, and just the chemistry with itself made it very different compared to other chemistry with past supporting characters that Indiana Jones usually plays off of. Unfortunately, those are the only positives I can really take away from this movie because otherwise I thought this movie was sort of a dud. I didn't really feel like when it came to this Indiana Jones movie that it had the same visual stakes or the same thrilling action adventure feel to it that came with the previous movies. Now, in understanding Harrison Ford is of an older age, plus James Mangold's obviously not Spielberg, but I just saw the repeated patterns of many blockbusters I've seen previously, to where there's not a sense of how to tell a visual story through action sequences, how to lay out a shot to where it feels like you're in on the action rather than just on the sidelines of it all. I thought the set design, some of them were okay, but otherwise they just didn't have the feeling as if you could reach out and touch them, like exactly how they feel. They almost just came across as CGI backdrops, even though there were action sequences that had real backgrounds to them that were shot on location. They weren't just on stage. I thought that some of the action sequences were okay at best, but other times all those complaints I described went into the majority of the action in and of itself. Um, so I just had a really hard time being able to be enthusiastic by what was going on, with a lot of it being so action heavy, and that also was suffering of even the more quieter, more intimate moments that went on throughout this movie. Not only that, but I thought there was some editing errors throughout this movie. I thought the pacing was really weak, and for 2.5 hours long, it probably shouldn't need to be that length to begin with. But for an action movie, you should feel like it's flying by, but it just does not. And I thought even the score that's supposed to be as memorable as it has been throughout the previous movies just as comes across more as a whimper and as a last second thought rather than as being actually incorporated into the rightly timed moments. I can't honestly say that I really recommend this one. A lot of people say that it's a more mediocre movie. I lean on that, but honestly, because I love Indiana Jones so much, I would almost say that this is a bad Indiana Jones movie. So if you still want to be enthusiastic about it and give it a chance, go for it. But I honestly can't say that I would really recommend doing so. But that being said, if you have been able to see this movie, what do you think about it? We'd love to hear it in the comment section below. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, thank you to our Patreon supporters, and thanks for watching Alex's mom. See you guys.